Welcome to Gold Star Classroom, the podcast where our panelists go back to school. We'll grade them on their answers to a variety of general knowledge and trivia questions. They don't know what we're going to ask, and we don't know what they're going to say. The student with the highest grade at the end of the class will win the coveted classroom prize, the Golden Banana. I'm your host and headmaster, Professor Jerry Jaffe. Today's episode of Gold Star Classroom is being recorded live on location at Toth's Place, your local watering hole in Mentor, Ohio. Today's students are, on my far left, Steve Weary.
Hello.
Hello, Steve. Welcome to class.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And on my immediate left, Mike Czar.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, Mike. What's going on?
Not much. Not much.
Excellent. On my right, a comedian from Toledo, Ohio, Anthony Martinez.
How's it going, guys?
It's going well. Welcome to class, Anthony. All right. I like those glasses. You look like the smartest student in the room right now, thanks to your glasses. And on my far right, Keith Bergman.
Hi there.
Hi, Keith.
Hi, my glasses actually make me look dumber. It's a weird paradox.
Glasses can do that sometimes, one way or the other. All right, well, welcome to today's class. I am going to be asking all of the students some general knowledge and information questions, and I'll be grading your answers. Your answers will be graded for accuracy or cleverness.
Here comes summer
Either
school.
way. The first question comes to you from a documentary I watched recently. There is a well-known YouTube science channel, Vsauce. Anyone watch Vsauce?
No.
Well, I recommend it for your
Sounds
higher
delicious.
education. It's science made delicious.
All right.
Well, one of their episodes was titled this, the question I now pose to you. What can you do without a brain?
Ooh.
For every correct answer, you'll score points, and for every interesting answer, you'll score points. I'm sure... Keith, jump on in. What
Can you
do
define? Can I ask for clarification
Of
of
course.
the question?
You may ask your
Are we
teacher
talking
any
like the
question.
higher frontal lobe or the whole thing?
The whole thing.
Okay.
For example, in the video, they showed that if you cut off a cockroach's head, because they don't really have a brain, the rest of the body will function even for many days until it dies of starvation because it doesn't have a mouth.
Okay.
So the premise of the documentary science clip was a human body with no head. Yes, Steve.
Is it create a series of movies and theater productions that feature a very angry African American woman that kind of parodies Ernest from the 80s?
You could create the premise for a series of horror movies.
Medea gone headless.
There have been many horror movies about headless creatures, and there have been many movie producers that seem to be headless creatures. Keith.
You can ride a horse and chase Ichabod Crane around. I learned that. I can cite sources.
You're not trying to sneak in a plug for the new television drama Sleepy Hollow, are you?
Is that a show?
It is, or it's an internet hoax.
Well,
Anthony.
You can lie very still.
You can remain motionless for lengths of time,
This is very
previously
true.
unconsidered. There are functions of your body that would continue if you were sort of decapitated, like biological functions.
I think, like, are we talking? Forgive me. Is the spine and the cortex considered like a part of like the brain stem, or?
Well,
is this one of those trick questions where it's like it's the brain, but like that's not considered a part of the brain? That
well, the without going into the minutia of brain biology, the basic premise is if your head was whacked off, what functions could or would continue with the rest of your body?
So we're going.
So you do have your nervous system, like the rest. Your spine is there, your nerve endings are there.
you can still look Glenn Beck's site up on the internet
like I was.
And donate money.
and
to
donate
it.
money.
But
I was-
Mike,
I was just confused because I was wondering if it was no brain, still a head, and I'm glad now we clarified. There's no head at all.
Right.
That was I guess be Mike Czar on this. That would be the thing you could
If
do.
you had a head with no brain, an empty head, you could make really deadpan looks.
Yeah. Well, I think if you imagine the brain damage option, there's so many different types of brain damage and brain functions that you can have or lose that I think the hypothetical decapitation just eliminates all of those from the consideration.
Right.
Yes.
I think I got it. Is it Keeping Up with the Kardashians? I'm just saying. I've watched the show. I think that could be like.
Is it the Kardashians or is it the
Like,
fans who keep up with the Kardashians?
Ooh.
Well, you don't need a brain to make a sex tape.
That's true. That's true.
It takes some. If you're headless, it takes at least some of the options off the table.
Yes.
Wasn't there
Distribution options would be limited.
There was that chicken. Do you ever hear?
Yeah,
No
yeah.
head, and they would feed. I think his name
They
was Mike.
fed him like
I think.
corn. Yes,
I
Mike
think it's
the
a
headless
chicken.
chicken.
The chicken made a sex tape.
And now the chicken has a show like, where it's all the other chickens in the hen house, and they
Right
just
on
kind
a Kanye West baby.
like they're all kind of riding on Mike the chicken's like tail feathers, you know.
Keeping up with the headless chickens.
The mother of Mike the headless chicken really feels like she owns everything and runs the whole show.
Famously, if you butcher a chicken by directly cutting off its head, its body is known to function for a few minutes, so running around like a headless chicken. But Mike the chicken's head was cut off, but sort of not perfectly, so there's a little bit more of its brain stem left. But it had no head, and they did feed it with a dropper down its neck, and it lived for many months. I mean, more than a year, I think.
Actually, it was alive for a while. It's funny, this came up recently, like I think on NPR or something, but like they were talking about how it was actually alive for years, and they toured with the thing, and they described it like the owner was saying that like it was still like it would try to crow in the morning, but it didn't have like the head. So
That's so awful. That's the
Yeah,
worst
like,
thing I've ever heard in my life.
but he was like
That's so
joyfully
sad.
describing this chicken like still every morning.
Oh my god! I wish
just gargling.
Yeah,
I wish I didn't have a brain, so I wouldn't have to process that horrible existence.
you wish you were Mike the chicken because he has no.
I'm going to go to Anthony's raising his hand, but before I do, I'd like to point out that no one has given an actual biology-based answer to any of the functions that go. Anthony, are you going to correct
I'll
this?
give two.
Earn some points here,
I'm
my
going to
man.
give two. Okay,
Yes.
my first one, if you lost your head and then they took out your brain and put it back on, you could star in all the Weekend at Bernie's.
Okay. Yes.
Very good,
Okay,
very
and
good.
Or at least be a stand-in.
Yeah. And my actual answer is, I'm guessing you'd poop and everything.
Digestive processes, especially in your intestines, contains bacteria. And those bacteria are their own separate life forms. So the bacteria continue to live and do their job. And so, yes, your digestive functions can continue after you've been decapitated. So there, you get a gold star for the first correct answer of the day.
Might I add, in your face?
Don't have a face, but head cut off.
Mike, the chicken. There is one other common urban legend, which is that your hair and nails continue to grow. That, however, is not correct.
Oh.
In fact, what happens is as your body becomes desiccated, it dries up. So the skin retracts, causing nails and hair to look longer. But they are, in fact, not growing as they would for, while still being alive.
So you're telling me that, like, the reason why I have this strip in my head that just flat out has given up on growing hair is that I have decided in my brain power that this one little area here, this is some Christian science kind of stuff where, like, my will to
Your
grow
attention
hair
is
everywhere
gone.
else on my head is so much stronger than my will not to grow hair here.
For bringing up Scientology and Christian Science, you lose 10 points. Thank you, Larry. So
Gladly take it.
this ends the biology lesson for the day. Anthony currently has the top score for having a correct scientific answer, although Mike currently has the top score for bringing up Mike the chicken.
Boom.
He's
That's
the
not
breakout
even a
character.
thing. Just because the chicken happens to be named Mike as well, he remembered it. He just
Our next topic comes to us in the realm of the history of words. I'm going to tell you a common expression. You all know this expression. And the origin of this expression is unknown. So there's many theories. So, do you have any idea where the expression green room comes from? Every theater, TV studio, radio studio typically has a waiting area, and they usually call that by tradition the green room.
Usually they're green. That's a start.
Michael, you get A for obvious. Keith,
I'd like to point out that unlike Mike, I raised my hand.
one bonus point for Keith.
I'm gonna throw out a theory
Okay.
that I know that marijuana use has been prevalent among performing artists for a long time. There were old big band and jazz and swing songs back in the 20s and 30s about smoking weed and smoking reefer and all that. And that I'm guessing that even at like the turn of the century or before that, actors and other ne'er-do-wells would partake. And that perhaps, it was considered that was the one place where you could go do it without reprisal. Although I think back then, before the 30s, I don't think it was even that big a deal to smoke reefer, so I don't think that maybe that theory is flawed. Now that
Steve, what would you like to add?
This is so funny because, I used to make money doing theater stuff. And I can't even really remember, but my best stab at it is I think it has to deal with the fact that is the green room is typically where you're at just before you go up on stage, or where you would go. Basically, it's like the one little common area. Once you're all set and ready to go, that's where information is given and everything like that. So I believe green means that you're ready. It's prep to go.
Well,
my only problem with that would be that traffic lights aren't that old of a thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's...
Well, the thing is, in terms you bring up old of a thing, the origin of the phrase is unknown for certain, but it is a much older phrase than the 20s or 30s.
Right.
The phrase "the green room" to describe a waiting area off stage is probably hundreds of years old.
It referred to the days that they kept turtles in...
Everything's turtles with you, Stephen.
It is what it is.
I have seen probably 10 to 15 different theories. The marijuana theory is not one I've come across, but it can't be ruled out. Mike, what do you have?
I was kind of going to go along with Steve's idea that I feel like I've heard the term green as to mean earnest or have some energy. So that would be a place where you would probably pump yourself up before you would go on stage.
Crappy HGTV design show did you get that? Paint this in greens because I want everyone to...
One of the dozens of theories is that the waiting room is green because it's a calming color. That's not one of the theories I put a lot of stock in, but it is something you might come across as a possible reason. Anthony, any guesses?
Green means good.
Actually, green also means, as a color association, a beginner.
Oh, yeah?
And so it has been suggested that in professional theater of centuries gone by, actors of different rank or experience had different waiting rooms.
Oh.
And the green room might be the room for the least experience to keep the extras separate from the divas. So there'd be a green room for the beginners.
Yeah, I've never known that status in my life. So I've always been in the green room.
Well, now, like on Broadway, the stars might have dressing rooms that are separate from the green room.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It would not be typical to have separate green rooms
Yeah,
for
right.
different cliques of performers.
I mean,
The green room
there'd
would
be
a
other
communal
colors.
room. Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know. I wonder if there was some kind of... Because even paint is not that old of an invention. So it might have been a thing where if that was some kind of whatever coloring they used, maybe they used some kind of green stuff that helped keep lice out of your costumes or...
Keith, you're bringing up paint is getting you close.
Okay.
There's one theory is that old stage makeup used to have to be a lot thicker because they didn't have bright electric lights, and it would have like a green hue just to the makeup. So there's a paint angle. But I will tell you my favorite theory, the one that I consider most likely, and it also has to do with paint. Before theater had sets and realistic stages, backdrops were used, especially in the 1700s and 1800s. And for backdrops, there were three types: city, country, and pastoral. Country and pastoral, both outdoors, like our natural settings, a lot of green. these big backdrops are huge and heavy, so they would store them by the stage. So the room by the stage would be the room where the backdrops were stored, where there'd be a lot of green paint, a lot of green color available. So actors might wait in that storage room because it's so close to the stage, and the color green might be associated with the paint. So bringing up paint was worth bonus points.
All right.
Crawling in the right direction.
There you go.
Nowhere near turtles, so
Now after that test, Keith is catching up with Anthony. Steve, you got a long way to go. So on this next topic, I want to see do your best. I have high hopes for all my students. And our next topic is going to be American history. And I have a question for you. Get out my class notes. When was the U.S. flag officially adopted? Obviously, it's either obvious or it's a trick question. Keith!
I'm going to go with the trick question angle and say it never. It's never officially been adopted.
Oh, I like the way you think, but there is an actual date associated with its officialness.
Which version of the flag are we talking about? Are we talking about Betsy Ross's, or are we talking 50 Nifty?
You get a gold star, my friend. A gold star for Mike.
Bam.
Because therein lies the trick. Every time they updated the flag for more states, it had to end up getting adopted, accepted.
Can you dock him points for saying 50 Nifty?
If I have the right note in front of me, there have been 32 different official U.S. flags as they updated it during the expansion of the country. So one question might be, when was the original Betsy Ross flag adopted, created, and then follow-up question, when is the flag we think of today with the 50 stars?
Well, she was really lazy, so it was on Betsy time.
Yes.
Betsy doesn't move fast for anyone. Betsy does things the way that Betsy sees fit.
You are correct in that it was certainly not July 4th, 1776. Although it was in that time frame, because she lived with our founding fathers.
She partied.
In fact, she may well have literally lived with some of the founding fathers.
Betsy got around.
Yes,
Betsy.
I'll add you besmirch the name of Betsy Ross.
I'm going to say that the last one was 1960, because 1960, I think, is when the last state, which I now don't remember whether it was Hawaii or Alaska. I don't remember the order, but I'm pretty sure 1960 was the year.
I want to hear Anthony's remark to that.
Okay. It's not fair because he was around then.
Hey, old people represent. Not only is it not fair, but it's not wrong. 1960 is the year, the correct year of when our official current flag was adopted.
We need a new flag. I think it's just, it's been so long. I mean, there used to be a stretch where it was like every other year there was a new flag, and like I say screw the stripes and the stars even, like, because there was a while we had like Don't Tread on Me and stuff like that.
A total reboot.
Yeah,
A
total reboot. I need something new. I think we just got to put like Kesha on the flag, and that's it. It's just we'll fly the banner of Kesha, not like her name, but just the face, like just.
The current flag was adopted on July 4th, 1960. There is one other way, it's more of a psychological way to think about it, but the modern feeling, so that don't tread on me, revere the flag, that was also not an original part of the Betsy Ross Founding Fathers flag, because they were sort of iconoclast, so not interested in worshiping things like that. So the flag was used for sort of official purposes, like U.S. territory or U.S. military, but it was not this like beloved symbol of America until what great event? Keith?
The bicentennial.
No. It's a good guess, though. It is further back in history than that.
The Christmas party during the Teddy Roosevelt.
Actually, further back in time than Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, does it have to do with the Civil War?
It has everything to do with the Civil War.
Because that way that was something to rally around and unify the...
In general, it was the Civil War.
So slavery is the reason that we do that now?
Somewhat,
Darn
because it distinguished the North from the South. So the Northerners would display it with pride. And there were a couple of early battles where Northern military took the flag to the South. So it became like a rallying point for the whole war between the states.
If only they could. If only they could go back and see what that really did to our great nation, though. Years down the line, where you have because the only people who really get crazy about the flag are just old snotty people that just hate anything, anyways. It's always somebody who's complaining about the way that your flag was set in your yard, or where it's how tall the thing is over this. That's also the same guy who's complaining that you have blue shutters on your house and they distract him. Like that. Right. If they could just see years down the line, yeah, that's great for now, but look what they turn into, all these decades later. We don't want to be...
Steve deserves 10 extra points for social commentary. Keith gets 10 extra points for the correct answer. Anthony gets 10 extra points for calling Keith old. Mike, what are you going to do to get 10 extra points?
I saw the trick question.
You identified the trick question. You get 11 bonus points.
Damn it.
Right there.
Which puts you up to 9 total.
There is something, you talk about those persnickety old people, called the flag code. Flag code was adopted in 1942. May have been updated since then. But, so there are guidelines and rules, sort of official rules on how to handle. And there's something else, one of my last topic related to the flag. And if you were annoyed by the flag, I know you're going to have something to say about the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance. Say, when was it written and when was it adopted by Congress? Another thing our founding fathers would probably revile. Mike?
Did it have was that under Eisenhower? Was he the president then?
Not yet. Got to go a little further back.
A little further back.
I know what you're thinking of.
Yes, there is something though. There's like a.
You're thinking of when they added under God.
Which
to separate us from the commies.
You have again sniffed out the question because that was going to be the follow-up question.
Man, I'm good at this.
The original pledge did not have the phrase "under God" in it. In fact, the original pledge was written for children and was first published in a children's book as part of celebrating the 400th anniversary of Columbus arriving in America. If you can add 400 to 1492, you will now know what year it was originally written in.
Orange.
No, but it does rhyme with orange.
Wait, so it's on Bastille Day?
It's composed by Francis Bellamy in 1892.
Oh, I know Francis Bellamy.
Published on September 8th in a children's magazine.
So that's the thing. So now this thing was written to warp impressionable young minds, and now everyone gets mad if you don't say it before every public meeting.
Correct.
My favorite thing about it is the fact that it was somebody who put that in a children's book, and then they said that's something that's good, that children should read that, and think about it. And then somebody else got a hold of it and said I'm going to force every child in the entire country to say this every day, and no one took and looked at that guy with the same set of eyes that they look at Caligula for the same reason. I don't know why that isn't a thing.
The under God part was added in 1954 by a joint resolution of Congress as part of revising the flag code, because the Pledge of Allegiance is part of the flag code. And if you think Keith is old, I know people even older than Keith, and just as a kind of social commentary, the under God phrase was added as part of the Cold War, because the Soviets were seen to be godless.
Yeah.
So it was
I think the weirdest thing about it is that they made the cadence of it to sound like you're bored as shit when you say it. You're just pledge allegiance to the flag. It's just there's no way to say that and sound interested.
Well, you guys dropped a lot of general knowledge on that. I like the looks of everyone's grade. Great teachers have great students, so I give myself an A for that. I would like to move into the area of foreign languages and culture.
Oh.
Anthony, let me ask you a question.
I was waiting for it.
If I were to toss an apple at you, would you catch it? Quick now, 3, 2, 1. Well, if this were ancient Greece, we would now be engaged to be married.
Oh, that's weird.
In ancient Greece, tossing an apple and catching it was a marriage proposal and acceptance.
They hadn't invented the rest of the salad yet, so you could only toss an apple.
See,
Now, that's one way to say I love you, I guess, is throwing an apple at somebody. Comedians, I think, see it the other way. You throw fruit as an I hate you. Although if you can catch it, you're still engaged to be married.
So they value catchers, is what you're saying.
That's just depressing to me because I wouldn't have been able to even get any back then. I have terrible hand-eye coordination. No, ancient Greece.
Andy obviously doesn't eat healthy food.
No.
So.
Ew!
And I fling this ice cream cone towards your face.
It's like he keeps dropping the apples. He only grabs the people who throw euros.
If
Chicken
throwing
power
an apple is a way to say I love you, and I love you is a way to say I love you, bonus points for being able to say I love you in any other language. Keith.
Ich liebe dich. German.
German.
That's the only one I know.
I can say mi amor, which is my love, which kind of works.
The implication.
Oh,
In there.
it's je t'aime in French, right?
Je t'aime in French. Tamo, or temo, is a usual Spanish expression, although if you correct me,
Please.
I'll go with what you say.
No,
No,
you're
no,
right.
no.
Let's correct Anthony's
You're
Spanish
doing better.
of course. I am the teacher. That makes me the authority figure, which means I'm right even when I'm wrong.
Anthony's over here like, I think it's Feliz Navidad.
My family's all Eastern Europeans. We focused on the hatred much more than the love. It's,
I
I
went
have 16
online.
words for pogrom, but I don't know how to say.
I went online today and printed off how to say I love you in 100 different languages. I will say about 10 of these I knew, but nonetheless. Japanese, aishiteru. Danish is jeg elsker deg. No points for my accent, but that's the
There you
basic
go.
phrase. I think Norwegian is the same expression. Might be a different accent or... any requests? Want to look up a couple languages? What language would you like to
let's
say I love
see.
you in?
Tagalog.
I got Tagalog.
Yeah, that's
That's the
Tagalog.
like indigenous language of the
The Philippines. Yeah, my friend's Filipino. I guess it's Tagalog, but because he always has the joke when people say Tagalog, he's like, no, I don't speak Girl Scout cookie.
Mahal kita is how it's printed off. Perhaps your
Okay.
friend could correct our pronunciation.
I speak Girl Scout cookie.
Any other calls on this one?
Urdu.
Urdu.
I'm not sure if that's a thing.
I have Farsi. Dasit Darum.
Okay.
see, yeah, it's still like they don't even have Romany on there. Sad. I just wanted to learn what the word was. I've never heard it in my own.
Certainly not from my parents.
Certainly not
I'm
from them.
Romanian. Romanians are one of my favorite peoples because they're like passionate Mediterraneans and wildly religious.
Yeah.
So you get these weird conversations about how important their religion is to them while they're like partying, doing coke, having group
Yeah,
sex.
yeah. that's-
I'm not trying to throw a whole country under the bus, by the way, but it is every Romanian person I've personally met matches that description.
But there are plenty of buses to throw them under in their own country because that's the primary mode of transportation.
Most of them are
You're not
diesel.
trying to, but it naturally happens as a daily part of life.
That's how a lot of them get to work. They're just under the bus.
Just hanging on.
Well, we're going to go to our final question.
Okay.
A little pop culture for you. I'm sure you have something to say about this. According to Guinness, in English, we're leaving behind foreign languages and culture. In English, according to Guinness, what is the most recognizable song? Thoughts, guesses?
Happy birthday.
Steve called it. I know Keith was right there too.
Oh.
Happy birthday, also called Happy Birthday to you.
I was
Yes.
gonna say, don't stop believing.
Sweet Caroline.
I do know what second is, but I don't know the rest of the list. I only know first and second.
Hava Nagila?
The English version of Hava Nagila, for He's a Jolly Good Fellow.
Ah,
I didn't know those two were even related.
they're not.
Filling my mind full of falsehoods. Detroit.
Who wrote Happy Birthday to You? This is a song that is, in fact, covered by copyright.
Yes, and they make a lot of money off of it every year still.
Approximately $2 million a year.
Which is why restaurants, when they send people out to sing songs, they don't sing Happy Birthday to You.
Yeah.
They make up a
Yes.
song about their
I do not know her name, but I do know that what she used to be a kindergarten
Yes.
teacher,
Yes.
and the original song was not Happy Birthday. It was like
You're-
hello, how are you, or something like that. It was like a way that she started the class every day. It was like she
Was it
sang
like, Good
that,
morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Good
Yeah.
morning to all. Was
Yeah.
the original lyrics.
And then somebody else came along and decided to copyright the song, but it wasn't it wasn't actually the woman that wrote it originally.
There is a kind of legal battle about the copyright status. It's probably the full story is probably too complicated to go into, but it was two sisters, Patty and Mildred Hill. One was a kindergarten principal, and the other was a music teacher. And the kindergarten teacher wanted to try to use music in the classroom.
Yeah.
Got her sister to write this song. According to legend, her own kids came up with the Happy Birthday verse because they liked the song so much they started singing it to each other.
Yeah.
And then this was in the 1890s. Like 20 or 30 years later, it started appearing in print.
Yeah.
And then 20 or 30 years later, the copyright battle started. So there was a whole thing about when these women died, who their descendants were, who first printed it.
Yeah.
And in the turn of the century era, when things were first being printed that we would copyright now because we have our jurisprudence of intellectual property, it wasn't done clearly. Anthony?
I heard, I don't know if it was a rumor or if it was true, but I heard Michael Jackson owned the rights at one point.
No, he owned the Beatles song rights. I mean, he bought up a lot of song rights.
That is, though, one of the many turns in this strange story.
Okay.
Because Paul McCartney tried to buy the rights to Happy Birthday to You. And then Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson were in a bidding war for the Beatles music, which Michael Jackson won. So in the end, Michael Jackson owned the Beatles catalog. That's kind of a digression, but
May God rest his soul.
I think Paul McCartney reached a point where he needed more money and approached Yoko Ono because he thought him and Yoko Ono should own it. But when she didn't want to go in on it, then he stopped sort of pursuing the bid.
Japanese wives, right?
A lot of people don't know that the original, back in the 1800s, the original verses of the song had lines like, "Stop reading those books, now go plow the field." The devil's in learning.
If the current interpretation of copyright law holds, though, by 2030 it will be in public domain. Maybe sooner, depending on how it's argued in court.
I can't wait.
Beautiful day that will be.
And as a matter of fact, I seem to remember that it's the lyrics right now that are in the copyright, and actually the music itself, you could play the music, but you can't the words to it are what's catchy. So you can actually sing like the music, the whole you can do that. But you can't do the actual lyrics behind it.
If the EU has its own version of copyright laws, it will come into public domain in Europe in just a couple of years, like by 2017. They don't quite allow as many extensions in other parts of the world. Which reminds me, I mean, it's a very fascinating story if you are interested in copyright law and intellectual property with too many. But I will say, to answer Anthony's question, the song is actually owned by Warner.
Yeah.
The Warner Music Group owns the song. And they make about $2 million a year off of royalties and licensing.
So I don't feel so bad about downloading all those Van Halen records illegally now.
Yeah.
And as an amusing side note only to copyright law and intellectual property, just like that song, the people who argue that song's in public domain already because of the murkiness of its origin.
Yeah.
And similarly, Mickey Mouse, it may already be in public domain, but if he's not, will be very soon.
Wow. I've got some plans for that.
I got some fan fiction ready.
The original Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, oh boy! Again, this was quite long ago, back to the 20s, was not really properly copywritten when he was first created.
Is it copywritten or copyrighted?
Copyroted? Copywrote over?
Copyrooted.
That's interesting. Because I remember there's an episode of South Park that came out recently in which Mickey Mouse was portrayed as very foul-mouthed and nasty. But I remember thinking, how did they get away with? Because they called him Mr. Mouse, and they said Disney.
Yes.
They never called him Mickey, but it was very obvious, same voice, same head.
Like parody, they also drew him slightly different. So it wasn't like a classic Mickey, although to anyone watching the show it was a clear parody of Mickey.
Yeah.
And also, in fact, when Steamboat Willie becomes public domain, it will only be the image. You won't be able to call him Mickey Mouse. You won't be able to use the name Disney. But you could, like, all these Chinese knockoff Disney products, a whole bunch of them are about to become
Legit.
public domain. All right. Well, this brings us to the end of the class. While I calculate the grades, I'd like to give each of you one more chance to raise your grade. Any comment, question, or intelligent observation that you'd like to share, we'll go around the room, starting with Steve.
Well, I had a backtrack. Certainly over the years, a lot of people have been very unhappy with the happy birthday copyright thing, and a lot of people complaining as to why is it that they can claim ownership over a song that seems to have been, in the public grasp, which is ironic considering that we live in this great nation that used to not be ours, and we showed up one day and claimed it as ours, and a whole bunch of people went, well, we have no concept for what ours is. We just figured we'd share this with everyone, and everyone gets to enjoy it. No, it's ours now.
Possibly the greatest intellectual property violation in the history of mankind.
And we're fine with that one. We'll keep that one riding until...
And that's supposed to last until 70 years after the death of the last person. So, as far as I can tell, they still have the legitimate copyright claim.
I mean, it should be. I think that, after a certain amount of years, America should just be reverted to open space to where we no longer own it anymore, and then everyone can come back and use America.
All right, class. Anyone want to go next? Mike.
I'm just thinking about where I'm going to put the golden banana. I'm kind of overwhelmed with that thought. I don't know.
The coveted golden banana to be awarded as soon as I've finished calculating the final grades. Anthony, anything to improve your chances? Brown nosing?
I know how to say happy birthday in Spanish. It's cumpleaños feliz. That's about all I got.
We're forced to take your word for that. And Keith, any final thoughts?
I'm trying to think of a way to tie all of these topics in together. Trying to think of, would it be possible for a person without a head to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the tune of Happy Birthday in any different language than English? Did I skip? Did I miss any?
I love you.
I love you too, Steve, but that's not relevant.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the class. I've tallied the grades. Because I'm not sure what Anthony said, and I don't want to seem culturally insensitive, he will receive the coveted Golden Banana Classroom Prize. Congratulations, Anthony.
Also, in your face again.
And thank you to all the students for coming along for today's Gold Star Classroom.
Well, thank you.
Hey.
Gold Star Classroom is written and produced by Jerry Jaffe. Our producer and engineer is Stephen Gutierrez. Original music composed and produced by Jeff Geddert. Mr. Geddert is also our assistant producer. All commentary and opinions expressed by guests of Gold Star Classroom are meant for entertainment purposes only. For Gold Star Classroom, I'm Jerry Jaffe.